and welcome to One Voice Live, where we talk about One Voice, what it is, and how it fits into the world of singing. I am your host, Alex Zito, and today we are continuing our Building a Voice Practice series, and I'm interviewing One Voicer and working actor Nick Eibler. So a little bit about Nick. He is originally from Atlanta, Georgia. He went to Texas State University to get his degree in musical theater. Last year, he had his Broadway debut in The Prom, and he was recently in a new musical called Fly, which is an adaptation of the Peter Pan story that unfortunately got cut short due to social distancing and Corona. But we're so happy to have him here and to talk about his vocal practice, so let's bring him on. Nick, hello!
How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing well.
So I want to start off with first, can you tell us how you're spending your time in quarantine, how you're staying busy?
Yeah, I am doing a lot of resting, a lot of honestly non-creative stuff, because I feel like between The Prom and Fly and then just like auditioning in New York for the first time after graduating, since then it's just a lot.
Yeah.
So it's nice to just kind of have a little bit of like time to like catch up on shows that I've been meaning to watch or like play on my Switch. Like the most creative thing I'm doing is playing Animal Crossing.
That's awesome.
But like reading too, because I love reading. So trying to go through all the books that I currently have sitting around me.
Remind me the timeline, because you graduated 12 seconds ago and then immediately went into prom?
Yeah, so I booked prom over spring break I auditioned for prom in March of last year, spring break. A week later, I found out I booked it, and then literally showcased on Tuesday, moved into my sublet on Wednesday, started rehearsals on Thursday, and then I think a week after Tony's was when I made my debut.
Oh my!
It was on June 18th. Yeah.
That's insane.
So and then rehearsals were just so fast paced. Definitely like one of the hardest things I have ever experienced. But I feel just like I can take on anything after going through that process.
I bet. Yeah. So you really haven't had much, if any, downtime in the city then.
Yeah, except for like the time like between jobs. But I mean, like as you know, it's auditioning and weirdly enough, I went into post-graduation hearing like, oh, summer's kind of like the downtime because everyone's away doing summer stock stuff and there's not really a lot going on. Apparently it was like one of the, if not the busiest summer that there's been. It felt like honestly busier in the summer than towards the fall. I felt like it was just like going and like everyone I know was like going in for all these different projects.
Mm-hmm.
So it was
wow. That's nuts. Well, I'm glad you have some time to chill out and like Netflix and read and, do normal people things who aren't booked and blessed. Okay, so before we jump into specifics on your voice practice, can you give us just like a quick background on you as a singer and your journey with One Voice?
Yeah. So, journey as a singer, gosh, I definitely came to singing late in the game. I would say it was definitely been a labor of love. Whereas like I feel like acting and dancing came a little bit easier to me. I started performing in like 4th grade, which is when I started doing musical theater. And my mom tells me she remembers thinking when I got up on stage for my first audition, because I auditioned for this company and all the parents were watching, which is terrifying for a 9-year-old. Yeah. But she remembers thinking like, oh, he's like has such like great stage presence. I just wish he could carry a tune.
Oh, no.
Your mom. But I mean, like grow up around singers. I grew up. A lot of my friends that were also performers were very naturally gifted, and so I was very much like, well, I wanna be able to be like them. So from a very early age, I was just like such a hard worker and just like wanting to be the best at my craft. And then 2 shows later, I did Seussical, and I worked so hard on the JoJo material, and I got JoJo. And my mom was like, wow, like, I think that was the first time she was really like, she's always been a huge supporter of me, but that was the first time she was really like, okay, I think like this is something that could really happen. So that was like kind of the beginning thing. and then kind of took private voice lessons all throughout middle school and high school, as like a lot of, I feel like, people going into a BFA musical theater program do. But it was just, voice was just always a struggle with me because I could never find the ease that I want, and I never was happy with the sound I was making, or like my vibrato is too wide. And then meeting Michael and hearing how diagnostic he got with just like all the sounds you people were making, I was really like, oh wow, this seems like what I need to in order to take that next step in my voice process and to feel more comfortable as a singer. Because it was still, for the longest time, just like I didn't look forward to singing. I looked forward to like dancing or like acting, but singing was always something that I was like very, very nervous to get up in front of people and do, because it's very vulnerable.
Yeah.
So
May I ask,
kind of like,
where do you find yourself on that journey now as far as the joy of singing and identifying as a singer?
I'm definitely leaps and bounds from pre-college. I found more ease, definitely. I enjoy it more. I found songs that I like love to sing. I think now the struggle for me is where I feel my voice fits is not as much where my like type is in the market nowadays, if that makes sense.
Totally.
Uh, just kind of like how a lot of current contemporary musical theater is very like pop sound, like you think Dear Evan Hansen, which like I can do, but I grew up listening to like Rodgers and Hammerstein and Disney and like old school musical theater, so like my voice is very much a product of that. So like again, like something that was like also a struggle for me growing up, and that has gotten much better is just like the idea of riffing and like that little thing, or like having that like pop sound, or being able to jump from genre to genre and sing like sound like a country singer versus like sound like, I don't know, Beyonce, someone like, yeah, just that. And so that was just like the hardest thing for me. But in terms of what my voice is now, just like what my core voice is, it feels much better, and I just enjoy working on that. And I found the ability to, words are hard right now, to meld my love for acting and singing and use just my voice to tell a story, as opposed to I'm just singing notes, if that makes sense.
That's amazing. Yeah, I feel like that's sometimes the hardest step for singers, coming out of voice lessons and then say, okay, now I have to tell a story while I'm maintaining all these new skills that I've implemented. So that's beautiful. I love that. And yeah, words are hard in quarantine when you're like all day, every day, like in isolation.
Anyway.
Like, oh, how do I interact?
Like, I'm like, exactly. I'm like warming up beforehand. I'm like, do I still even have my speaking voice?
The things we're learning. Okay, so let's jump into your voice practice. What was your experience like preparing for Fly?
It was, oh God, a lot of trial and error. It was definitely the hardest show vocally I've ever had to do, because there's me and this one other guy who were like the adult Lost Boys, and then there was three, like I think like 9 to 12-year-olds that were with us. And so a lot of times we were singing up with them. So we're like a very intense, heavy, like high, middle, like low, like head coordination place. And so it was just a lot of like, okay, how do I warm up for this? Because my my go-to warm up that I've done for like so long is just like, has always worked for me. Worked, but I was still like, whew, like we need to keep going. So it was a lot of just implementing a lot of stuff I've done with Michael, like just like the little characters like Valley Girl and Robot, and just like just stuff like that. And then honestly just like shouting like words like on the pitches that I was having to sing, because I was singing up like, I want to say like A, B flats, like consistently. Like it wouldn't be just like touching like on the occasion. It's like, no. And then we're also like running around the stage doing Andy Blake and Bueller choreography and just like high energy. So it was a lot of just like, how can I sing this and perform? Because like a lot of the first few times I was having to cut out, because I was like, I couldn't figure out the happy medium. And like, thank God we had like the female ensemble singing along with us,
Mm-hmm.
or else it would be like, can you, where's the Lost Boys? Like, are they singing? And so I reached out to Michael a lot. I was like, hey, Michael, this is what's going on. How do I do it? So he was like, try singing, just like singing in held position, and then try like holding that and then like marking through the choreo, just like in your room. And then when you feel like you've got that, start going full out. And so I really, really tried just like doing that in my apartment and then implemented that into performance. And I felt just like, okay, I'm like, it finally was getting there. And then like one show, I like 90% like nailed it. And then like 10% was like, okay, I really need to, because like otherwise I'm going to like cut, like just keel over and die, because I'm like belting for the gods and just jumping all over the stage. So it's definitely creating a more intense warm up. And then I have always been bad about doing a cool down, because it was like, okay, my voice is like fine. I'll just like talk and like kind of like be soft and like do a little and like stuff like that. But I would find that the next day it was harder to just get my voice into the place it needed to be for rehearsal or for the show, because like I didn't get it back like relaxed place that it's normally at.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just creating this more intense cool down.
Thing that I've been hearing more consistently than ever of working actors who have never done a cool down before, who suddenly are implementing it, that they're like, it is absolutely game changing. And an analogy that just came to me, did you ever wait? You probably haven't. You've never waited tables, right?
I have not.
Of course not. You're like, I was on Broadway 12 seconds after I graduated. But
I have baby.
What'd you say?
I have babysat though.
Oh, okay, he's babysat. But for people who wait tables, there are the openers and the closers, and the people who close, there's a lot of like cleaning and preparing. A lot of closing is getting ready for opening the next day. And I think of cool down as kind of closing. And it's like, if you don't clean up the floors, if you don't set up the silverware the way it's supposed to be, whoever's opening the next day, their job is ruined for them. Essentially, they're like 10 steps behind, and that's kind of what not doing a cool down does. It's like your closer screwed you over. And so you want to be the best closer and opener you can be.
The way I looked at it was, it doesn't have to be I have to do consistently for every show I do like this like 10-minute, 15-minute warm up and 10-minute, 15-minute, or like however long cool down. For this one, I was like, I need to do a long warm up and a long cool down, because it's the only way I feel my voice can consistently sing on top of everything else I'm doing. But like for me, like if I would, like when I did prom, like it was still hard, but it wasn't as demanding as Fly. So I would do my like just normal warm up and then just like do a short like abbreviated cool down, but it wasn't as like intense as this. And that's just my personal.
Of course. Yeah. And that's why I love the One Voice vocal workflow so much, is because it is tailored not just to you, but it's tailored to whatever your workout is, whatever show you're doing. So for the prom and Fly, it shouldn't look the same, because what you're doing in the show is not the same. Very, very astute. So what, can you give us some specifics? What are some of the things you implement during your cool down during Fly that feels really, really great for you?
A lot of sirens. Sirens just like, they feel better when I do a cool down versus like, I know some people do it as like a phase, like a prep before the warm. We'll do a siren. I would like do it, but it felt better to do as a cool down, because the show is so just like, for lack of a better word, just like choppy singing, like just very like punchy, that's the word, like punchy, because we're kids. Doing something that was just like smooth really, really helped me for the cool down. A lot of closed mouth sounds. Just like and like sometimes like I think the most open would be like an ooh.
And when you said you were using Valley Girl and Robot a lot, did you use those voices in your prep to help you build to a heavyweight?
I think I did it more so after the warm up. I would do tough spots for me in the show. I use those voices as like reminders of like, this is what it feels like.
Yes, absolutely. Was there anything else in your prep or just in your preparation at all, physically or vocally, that helped you feel super ready for either prom or fly?
I had to work the vocals and the choreography together
That's brilliant.
on my own, because both shows were such intense dance shows, and it wasn't just like, okay, you get like a little dance break and now you're singing for your life and now you're dancing for your life. I was like, no, you're dancing for and singing for your life at the same time. Yeah, I think that was the main thing for me, is just like really on my own time working them together.
I'd like to dig into that a little bit more because I think that's something that rarely gets addressed or taught or spoken about. At what point did you feel like, okay, I'm going to bring in the moves now?
Yeah. For Fly, I felt like it was like, I was like 90% like, okay, like I feel good. There was like a little, like a 10% that was like, okay, I'm not used to singing A's and B's and B flats while I'm just doing choreography like this.
Mm-hmm.
So vocally, I'm like, I feel pretty good. It's still a lot of like navigating, but I feel like I could do it. But then like at first, I couldn't sing it. I had to like get the choreography first and then sing it, and then try to meld the two together. But it's something I feel like a lot of performers are still trying to figure out, how can you sing and dance at the same time, even though it's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with like both fields, and as they should be, they want it to be like 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So just figuring out like, how can you give that 100% but also be able to like conserve and not kill yourself.
Right. It really is. I feel like I'm thinking about this for the first time ever, which isn't true, but it just feels this way right now. Like singing and dancing together is extraordinary. Like when you see people who really do it, who are just like dancing 100%. What? Who are you thinking of right now? What?
Wanting to do a Jerry Mitchell show, I'm like Hairspray. If you've ever done Hairspray in your life, I haven't done it. But I did Prom, and I think Prom is somewhat close in that world. I just like we had to do in I feel like it was in MT Dance sophomore year with Cassie. Micah comes in, and we're doing a Hairspray combo, and he's like, "Great, we all know the words, so you can't stop the beat. Let's try singing and dancing at the same time." Because it's like we do dance class and we do singing class.
Mm-hmm.
I had never really up until then rehearsed and like in a class setting the two together.
Mm-hmm.
It just, when you're having to do it, it's like you're going, you're with the professionals, and you're like having to go, and there's other people around you that are like, they're seeming like they can do it, why can't I?
Yeah.
And so it's just like a really like, you really beat yourself up because you can do both of them. But like,
yeah. And it's so frustrating. And I remember being thrown into You're in Town, being like, okay, figure it out. Because in the ensemble of that show, you are out and you are dancing out. Like you are doing both so fully, and you're just being an insane. I was one of the poor ensembles, so like an insane, crazy person. And I remember it just took like weeks and weeks of building up stamina, both vocally and physically, and then implementing held position and figuring out, okay, figuring out how can I make the sounds I have to make while making the moves I have. But yeah, it's a crazy experience, and it's a messy learning experience. I think for everyone, some more than others, but I think you have to allow it to be messy as you're figuring out.
And it's a show by show battle. Like some shows will be much easier than others, and some shows will be like, you might not get it until opening night, and that is okay, because you know what, you're trying, and thankfully you have people around you that are probably in the same boat as you, and that's to be expected. It's like, theater is a living, breathing thing, and it's not going to be perfect right out the get-go, because then like, what's the point of process? Let's just like slap a show and then
absolutely
put it on.
Yep. Speaking of imperfections, how do you deal with the the mental and emotional aspect of a voice practice.
Thing that comes to mind is always I feel like I have to warm up before I sing at all. Whereas like I know some people, and like every teach their own, like that's their own experience, can wake up and like do a little thing and then belt to the high heavens. I can't do that. My voice is not like that. It might be like a mental thing for me. Like feel like I have to like steam and do tea and do a 15-minute warm up and sing a little bit of material before I go in and do the show. For wins vocally for me, I feel like I've really, really tried to celebrate them because my voice has been such a labor of love and has been the hardest thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember when I did Cabaret, like I got to sing one of my favorite songs of all time is I Don't Care Much. And because I just like love songs like torch songs like that. And I love listening to like Judy Garland or like Edith Piaf or Billie Holiday. And that's like if I could sing like any kind of music and like really be known for it in another life, I would be a torch singer, like one of those ladies. And so I Don't Care Much is like the closest thing up until then I had gotten to experience that. And I'd like worked on the song just like a little bit before, and then just like getting to do it, it was the first time I loved hearing, like listening to myself sing.
Oh, wow.
Like I would get emotional because this just the moment in the show and the song for me is very it just touches on a really personal place. But it was also just emotional. It was really emotional being like, Nick, you sound really good.
I'm getting choked up. Can you like?
Because that's also weird. Because like I think that's like the first, like when you hear yourself saying something out loud for the first time, like that's something like I'm saying out loud for the first time in rehearsal and like in show. Like I never had to try with that song because I mean, great material is great material. You don't really have to try. And I think Kander and Ebb write incredible material. And that song, I just didn't have to try. And then like the cherry on top was just like, you sound really good singing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so like after that, I made it a real goal of mine is like find stuff that in your book or like if you're working on a show, see if you can try and get it to that place. Because something I love to do is I love playing different types of characters. So like I like my book to be very different, almost like nothing should, I don't want anything to sound kind of similar. It's all me and this is all Nick, but I like creating a different persona, different voice for each character. And so finding that voice and like getting it to a place, like even if it's like I had this I think it's a Cole Porter piece, but it's very charactery. And I think I got it from Chris Fitzgerald. He talked about the song doing it. And it's not like a vocally show-offy song, but I do a lot of vocal tricks and things that you would hear in like, the days of like Gilbert and Sullivan, like operetta.
Okay.
It's an operetta song. But it's a Cole Porter song from, I think, like a Cole Porter review. But so getting, like, I was able to, I think in the fall, get that to a place, because I had that song in my book for so long, get that to a place where it's like, I'm not singing and like I am in I Don't Care Much, but I like how it sounds, and I like the different colors of my voice that I'm getting to show, because it not only shows that I'm a character actor, and I can do all this fun stuff, but like, I can manipulate my voice in these interesting ways.
Mm-hmm.
So like I can do whatever you want me to do vocally, character-wise.
That's so cool. The other lesson in there for me is acknowledge yourself. And in singing, like take those moments and maybe even say them out loud of like, wow, I like how I sound on this. And don't be afraid to hold on to that, because that's so beautiful and important. And if we're waiting for other people to say it, we might wait a very long time. But we can give that to ourselves.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah. I feel like so many performers are such perfectionists. I mean, because theater itself is always like, it's always changing. It's always just, it's a, like I said, a living, breathing thing. And so I think to some extent there can be kind of a negative spin. It's not perfect, or it's not that, it's not this, it's not that. But just reminding to acknowledge, like, that's where it was when I first started. Mm-hmm. And this is where it is now. Because you go in thinking like, okay, this is what I want from this song. You get to some check mark and it's like, oh, well, I got this. I still want that. Let's try and get to that now. But you still just got that one thing, like
Right.
with how it sounds. So
Yeah.
acknowledging check marks along the way.
Yes, and spending just a little bit more time there because I feel like we're so quick to just move the goalpost and just say like, okay, yes, I still want that, but also I got this, and that's cool. And how you sound aside, like I'm showing up.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge, and I feel like so important. And that's the thing, like we always have control over. Am I showing up or not in the arena? Oh, I love that. I love that so much. Okay, any last thoughts on vocal practice? Any nuggets of wisdom you want to share with us?
Your voice is your voice, and it's the voice you have, and really take care of it. Like obviously like health-wise, but also just like nurturing it and acknowledging that you are working on it and you're putting in the time, and something that's also has been hard for me was like I want to sound like that, which can be good to some extent because it lights a fire under your ass. But can I say that on One Voice Life?
It has been said.
For so long, like, and as we all do, we compare ourselves to others, and so it's just figuring out how, like, I want to sing like that, but how can my voice sing like that? I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, like how can I, let me see if I understand. How can I achieve what they're achieving while maintaining what makes your voice, the qualities that make your voice you?
And it's just figuring out like, okay, that's something I do want to work on. That's something that's like, you know what, that's not for me, and that's okay.
That's great. Nick, thank you so much. I feel so privileged for that like beautiful moment you had of realizing.
Fucked. Because one of those, just like realizing like things you say in the moment. It's like, wow, I've never said that before, but okay.
Yeah, that was really lovely. That made me all feeling and stuff. Thank you so much for spending time with us and coming on One Voice Live for the first time. This was so lovely.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody. So next week, Michael Maresca is back, and we're digging into the prep phase of the vocal workflow, which, in my experience, the most life-changing thing when it came to my own vocal workflow. I'm so excited. I can't wait. So that's next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. CT. We will see you then. Nick, thank you again so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.